double lot here from RomeoTangoBravo.net. What I have sitting here on my messy, well, let's be honest, my disaster of a workbench here is a Kel-Tec RBF. My buddy Chris was kind enough to let me borrow this for the DPMS Outbreak Omega 4 zombie shoot the other weekend. Some of you guys might recognize it from some of the videos. And thank you, Chris, for letting me borrow this guy. He even gave it to me set up with this nice Trijicon 30mm scope. It's a little 1:4 power. Very cool piece of glass if you ever get to take a look through one. But basically what I'm going to show here in this video are some of the features, some of the things I like, some of the things I don't like, and then real quick a disassembly and reassembly. Alright, so first off, let's show and make clear, and that's going to bring me to my first one of my first and only dislikes of this gun. Your magazine release is right here on the rear, so it's an ambidextrous feature. It's located right in the middle. Go ahead and rock the magazine out. You got an empty magazine, all for show. Charging handle here, crack. Nothing's coming out, so she's clear. And like I said, here's your bolt catch. There's one on each side. And it's kind of awkward to lock her back. And this is a reciprocating charging handle, so it is going to stay back when the bolt's locked back, and it does lock back on an empty magazine. So then to release it, you can either use the bolt release, or you can just pull this back and let her go. Pretty slick. But anyways, like I said, one of the things I didn't like was when we had to show clear on the range, the chamber on this guy is up inside here. So it's kind of difficult to show clear, so we ended up having to use a chamber flag, and even that was kind of difficult for range officers to see. But we got her done. A couple things I really like. Obviously, the ambidextrous controls. The magazine release, the bolt release, you can use the charging handle as a bolt release. The safety. I really like where the safety is located. Once again, it's ambidextrous on both sides. Very simple operation. The charging handle can be switched to either side, and we'll kind of see that when I go to break this guy down. So a right-handed shooter, left-handed shooter, either one, you can use it pretty comfortably. And the one thing you might notice, unlike the AUGs, there is no ejection port up here. Typically on an AUG, you'd have an ejection port on one side and then a cover to cover up the other side so you get a nice cheek weld. This guy is a forward eject. So right here next to the gas regulator, there's a hole. And once I break this open, I'll kind of point it out. There's actually like a log flume. I don't know if that's a technical term. I made it. I like log flumes, so that's the term I'm using. You folks can chastise me later with the proper nomenclatures. But once again, I do want to say I'm not a self-proclaimed expert on this guy. I've only handled it for about 4 or 5 days. But he ejects right out the front, so that's kind of neat. So, well, let's break her apart. Basically, step one is you have 2 pins here. Let's bring this down a little bit. You have 2 pins here. Pop them out from this side. I'm just going to grab my a punch and a hammer here. They're still, it's a new gun, so it's still a little stiff. Alright, so once you pop those pins, go ahead, you pull them out, and they're captured pins, so they're not going to go anywhere. Make sure they're totally out. Then basically, you come down here and you give this guy a good whack. Let's make sure they're all the way out. There we go. Give that guy a good whack. So effectively what you've done is you've separated the fire control group from, for lack of a better term, the upper. And there is a 3rd pin here that I could pop to separate this fire control group completely. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to disassemble this guy too far. I don't have a manual, and I don't want to turn this gun back to Chris in pieces. But basically, right here you can see the hammer. And now I'm going to just kind of keep going here. So this is basically your stock assembly. This is just a sleeve. There's no parts in here to contribute to the operation of the gun. It's merely almost like a cheek weld. I'm going to call it the stock assembly. Set that aside. Keep her cracked open. And now you can see 2 kind of operating rods here with springs around them. This, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call the bolt carrier. Before we pull this guy out, we're going to take the charging handle here, line up that hole, and she just simply pulls out. Pops right out, real simple. Set that guy aside. Finish pulling out the bolt carrier. The reason we're calling her that is because it carries the bolt. So this guy kind of has a real interesting hinging rocking motion. It's kind of how it moves during the operation of the firearm. So it'd be sitting in the gun like this with your buffer and the springs and whatnot to the rear. And this plate basically serves as a cover for the little flume, or like what I like to call the log flume. I'm going to show you here in a little bit. But basically, this guy kind of rocks down at this angle, and it really shows you a lot of the bolt to clean it. I'm sure you can take this bolt apart much more. I see a pin here that you could probably pop, but once again, I'm not going to take it apart too far because I'm just not that familiar with it, and it's not my gun. But you can see the real beefy extractors on there. I mean, a lot of work, a lot of design went into this gun. You can tell Kel-Tec really put a lot of thought and effort into this. And this, I mean, I don't want to say that Kel-Tec makes rough stuff, but you can tell they spent a lot of time to make sure that this was, the fit and finish of this guy was real nice. So now kind of the firearm. Here's your barrel, all the way through. This would be your chamber up in here. So basically, what you have is your bolt is riding along inside these rails. And I don't know if we can get down the view, get down the chamber, and then you can see here is that flume I was speaking about. And basically, your empty brass gets brought up out of the chamber, extracted, and placed up in the chute. And they kind of stack themselves up and are ejected as more shells push out the old ones. So this flume goes all the way through and out this hole right next to the gas regulator. That's basically it. I'm going to throw this guy back together. Alright, so we got our gun here. Grab our bolt assembly with kind of the flume cover. Please pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Alright, there we go. So before we go too far, remember you got to throw in your charging handle. Line her up. Grab our charging handle. Snaps right back in. Go ahead and let the bolt seat. Seats right forward. So now all we do is we take, once again, our stock assembly, our cheek rest and stock, and that basically slides over the whole thing. That guy's going to seat. Go ahead, rock this up. Make sure she all lines up. I'm trying to keep it so you can see it in the camera. But you basically seat that guy back. And then what I found was that it's a little bit easier to get these pins back in. Pull the bolt back a little bit. Not sure why. It just seems to work a little bit easier. Make sure she's totally seated. And once again, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Alright, there she is back together. Do a quick little functions check. Alright, good to go. So there she is. I'll throw the empty magazine back in there for a final effect. There's the Kel-Tec RBF. Once again, thank you very much, Chris, for letting me borrow this guy. And hopefully we'll start seeing some more on the market. Before you go, I do want to show you a little bit of what I got as far as accuracy out of this guy. So basically, what you see here, this is my poor man's target, the old paper plate. And I'm going to use a I'm going to use a 308 round here to kind of point out what we got. This is at 100 yards. You can kind of see I started up here, started walking it down. My final last 3-shot group. I have one here, here, and here. So that's my last 3-shot group at 100 yards. There's a 308 for comparison. So it's very, very capable of being an accurate gun. But yeah, as always, double up, RomeoTangoBravo.net. Have fun. Good luck. Be safe.